Welcome, friends, to another special commentary from the Friday Nightmares podcast, available first on the Legion Patreon page. I am one third of your hosting team tonight, Heather Powell, coming to you from Waterdown, Ontario, Canada. And with me is
Mr. Smoke Show Crawford himself, coming to you from Swartz Creek, Ontario, Michigan.
because we
I got to do it every time now.
because we don't know geography. And we have a very, very special guest with us today. He is the boss. Like for those of you who watched wrestling, he's like the big boss man. He has a nightstick and everything. And when we don't listen to him, he uses it. We have Bo. Welcome, Bo.
Hey. Hi. How is everyone?
Man,
how are you? You're looking well.
we are good, Bo. Thank you for being here. So, Bo, for the people who don't know you, can you just give a little brief introduction of who you are with the Legion Podcast Network?
Yeah, sure. Well, it all started back in the 70s, Heather. No, I like to think of it as editor-in-chief of Legion Podcasts. I kind of do all the website stuff and kind of curate the shows to some degree and that kind of thing. And host my own shows. I do a show called Pick Six Movies, where me and an old friend of mine kind of make fun of bad movies, but we do it we try to provide some education as well. You kind of have to listen to it. So if you haven't heard it, listen to Pick Six Movies. And then I do a show called Hero Hero Go Show that's all about Asian horror. And then Duncan and Bo Come Correct, which is me and my good friend Duncan McLeish doing a show that started about movies and has recently become about the television series Slasher that we became obsessed with because it made us laugh.
Pick Six Movies is hilarious. I actually forced Scott to listen to your Pedals in the Wind simply so we could make fun of Bart Winslow. Attorney Blah! Yeah!
Bart Winslow! Yeehaw! Yeah.
Oh my God. And she hasn't forced me to do anything. She just suggested that episode. And yeah, I am laughing my ass off because I think I stopped listening because you hurt my feelings when you were pretty much tearing apart Christmas Vacation. I think it was last year or the year before.
Yeah. We neither Chad or myself are big fans of Christmas Vacation, but we all have our things.
Yeah, so now I'm just hate listening, Bo.
I get it. No, I mean, we hate watch these movies. Like in very short order, sometime today I will be watching the movie Spice World. Not because I want to, but because I do this show where I am forced to pick terrible movies to watch for myself. And but it's a lot of fun. Like the opening segment is sort of an informational piece about whether the movie or somebody in the movie or something around the movie, and that stuff is really fun to kind of write and produce and so forth. So yeah, I'm very proud of that show.
Speaking of writing, Bo, that's a really great segue. Listen to that. Gosh, it was perfectly put together. Because when you're writing, actually, the segue for Pick Six, a lot of detail goes into it. Particularly with Pedals in the Wind, you were having a sex ed class for a robot, which was actually quite entertaining. You definitely are a performer, which leads us to what do performers do? They write, and what do they write? Sometimes they write slashers. So the whole reason for this commentary is we are taking a look at your slasher that you wrote, Lost After Dark.
That is correct. I have I've written this film, not originally called Lost After Dark, but yes, that is the movie we will be watching.
Can you share with us what the original name was, or is that private?
No. I can absolutely talk about that. Originally, the name of the movie was House on the Hill 2.
Oh, okay. Why 2?
Because we thought it was funny. It was a sequel to a movie that had never been made, and the idea was the scene that you'll see at the very beginning of the movie is the last scene of that movie. But as we were going into production for the movie Lost After Dark, it turns out somebody, and no one in the history of movies had ever released a horror film before called House on the Hill. And
wow.
Right. And that's why we thought it was so fun. And the idea was, well, we could do House on the Hill too. And if it was successful, we could go back and do a prequel that was called House on the Hill. And it would be funny to do a prequel to a movie that was just the name of the movie, you know?
Yeah.
So it was very funny to us. And as it happened, as we were going into production for the first time ever in the history of movies, a movie called House on the Hill. I think maybe one in 1939 had come out or something like that, but nothing in the past like 70 years. And then it just so happened someone was making a movie called House on the Hill, and obviously we didn't want to come out ahead of that and appear to be a sequel to a movie that was about to come out or just had come out or whatever. So we had to kind of scramble and change the title. But we wanted something that was also kind of evocative of, you know, that era of slashers, of, you know, The Watcher in the Woods, and, you know, Are You Alone in the House, and Lost After Dark, and, you know, that was kind of the idea.
So what year
Nice.
did you finish writing this, Bo?
Probably 96.
Oh,
wow. And it didn't have a release till 2014. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
That script was probably, it was easily 15 years old, if not older, than
Wow.
it got made.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So just really briefly, because I'm sure it's a long story, but what was the gap? What was the reason behind it?
Well, you know, it's almost impossible to break into the movie business if you are not, like, if you're not kind of geographically in the area, if you don't have some kind of connection, it's tough to get in. You know, there was a great documentary on screenwriting called Letters from the Script, I think it was called. I'd have to look at again, but something like that. Tales from the Script. That's what it was called. Tales from the Script. And a lot of the one of the writers being interviewed, it was a lot of great writers like Frank Darabont and you know, a lot of Waldo Salt, I think, gets name checked a lot, who of course wrote Casablanca.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So at any rate, there was a writer who said the thing about the business is there's no real one way in. Everybody's got their own way into the business, and as soon as they get in that way, the door seals behind them, so nobody can ever get in that exact same way again.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think is really true. And so my weird way into it was I was just a writer. I'd been writing since I was probably 12 years old. And I also love movies. So at a certain point, when in my late teens, I decided that I wanted to try writing movies. And so I did. So I wrote a bunch of movies. I got books and taught myself the format and that kind of thing. And submitted to a couple of screenplay competitions and placed in a couple. And we actually went to Rhode Island at one point and realized, like, oh, these film festivals are local shit. I didn't have to come here for this. This is silly. But it was fun. And so, yeah. But what kind of got me there was a website that you could just, you know, you posted the scripts that you'd written on. And other writers would read it and kind of review it and stuff like that. But also every now and again, like low budget producers would pop onto the site and like, hey, here's the kind of what I'm looking for. Does anybody have a script like this? And that's the screenplay market in a nutshell is, hey, this movie got popular. What other screenplays are like that thing that made money?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
That is 100% how the screenplay market works. And so, so the guy who directed Lost After Dark, a guy named Ian Kessner, he read a couple of the scripts that I had posted there and reached out to me and said, hey, I really like this. And then we did a couple of bits together, like wrote some short stuff and that kind of thing. And a couple of other scripts we wrote together on spec. We were developing a TV show that got fairly far along at a certain point.
Oh wow.
And yeah, I mean, you know, like you do, you just keep swinging at it and hope. Like all of entertainment is like 98% people telling you no, and you just got to keep after it till someone tells you yes. And so the thing is, Lost After Dark at the time, House on the Hill 2 was the thing that got a yes, because it wasn't very expensive. It was kind of meta horror, which at the time I wrote it wasn't really that popular, but by the time it got made was incredibly popular.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it all came together. And, you know, Ian had never directed a feature before, but he had done a lot of short films and that kind of thing, had gone to film school and that kind of thing. So, you know, he had a few connections and had some people that were doing production work. And, you know, again, it was one of those things where like during the pre-production, like I was about to fly to Canada and to be there for the first week of shooting, and the funding fell out.
Oh my goodness.
And it looked like the movie was never going to happen. And a couple of months later, it got put back together, which is remarkable. The fact that the fact that like movies fall apart all the time, the fact that somebody like picked it up and got it back on its feet is kind of the unusual thing. So I'm incredibly lucky that the movie exists at all. And yeah, so we finally got the funding. And before you start the movie, it's probably worth pointing out this is all Canadian shot. So
nice. So right in Heather's alley.
Well, Sudbury was where it was filmed, which is about 5 hours from me.
So Sudbury is the, I want to say the exteriors. I may have this reversed, but the exteriors were in one part of Canada and something Sound, and I can't remember the name.
Oh, Perry Sound.
Perry Sound.
Yeah, near Sudbury. Yeah.
And so the exteriors I think were done there, and then the interiors were all done in Sudbury. So
very cheap up northern Ontario. For everyone who's listening, which is a province in Canada, just so we're clear. Nothing drives me more crazy when people refer to Canada and then they say a city. So Perry Sound, Ontario, Canada, and Sudbury, Ontario, Canada.
Yes.
And were the two locations.
Yeah, super inexpensive. Had their film crews available, and also great Canadian tax credits. That is that's the story of Lost After Dark.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, we really make filming here cheap. We just recently, where I live in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, which is where you wouldn't believe it, but most of your American films seem to be filmed.
Right.
TV shows a lot of the time. Because we have a steel town. So we can look like any low rundown city. And then we have beautiful escarpments where if you saw Becky last year, that whole thing was filmed 5 minutes away from my house. Which looks like it was filmed up north.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have the variety, and we have a huge movie studio that we've just developed, massive, because it's a big revenue for us. Having Americans come up, which has really been hit hard by COVID-19. You know,
I can imagine.
It's been tough. I was before our second lockdown. Have you guys heard of The Handmaid's Tale?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
So I walked through that being filmed. Like, that's just normal in Hamilton. Like, you'll be walking out somewhere and you'll be like, oh, like a sign will say, filming is occurring, you may be caught on camera, and something could be being filmed. Right?
Oh, nice.
Like, it's, you know, I don't want to say it's like, it's fairly common. Like, it happens a lot. There was a filming at an old Target for some movie just around the corner from my house. Like, they just show up and they film. Obviously, there's planning into it, but you're not really aware of that as a consumer. Chapter 2, the Corey scene, was filmed 10 minutes away from my workplace. You know, like it's really interesting. So it makes sense that they would have brought this film up here. And I honestly didn't recognize it as Perry Sound or Sudbury when I saw it the first time. So they did a pretty good job of just making it look like any northern area.
Yeah.
Have you ever done a commentary, Bo, about this film ever?
Yeah, Ian and I did one.
Okay.
Which you can find on legionpodcasts.com.
Nice.
And yeah, it was one of those things, like we did it ourselves when I went out for the premiere of the film, because like this was not the kind of movie where they like bring you into the studio to do a commentary and that kind of thing. But we both wanted to do it because we thought it was like, you know, both of us loved horror movies and wanted to sort of celebrate, you know, the movie for ourselves as much as anything. Like shit, making movies is tough. And the fact that the movie got made, like I said, it was kind of a minor miracle. So we were like, hey, nobody's going to pay for a commentary, so fuck it, we're going to do one. But that was like a lot of Ian really getting into sort of casting and stuff like that. So if you're
cool.
interested in like a very detailed commentary about like the super ins and outs of the movie making process, that's kind of that commentary,
which I think is valuable for anybody who wants to do a movie one day. I think a lot of people watch movies and they, I talk a lot about armchair quarterbacks, and that they think it's so easy. It's not easy. And I think you've kind of given a small sample of how it's not easy, and that there's a lot of work that goes behind the screen. So that's awesome to have that commentary out there for people that want to learn more.
Yeah. Like an honest to goodness movie set is it is tough to run. Like it's not the hardest work in the world or anything, but it requires a lot of skill and a lot of patience and a lot of people all pulling in the same direction. And it's tough. Making movies hard.
Absolutely. So, which is why I allow you to criticize Slasher, because you've made a movie.
Yeah, I don't feel as bad about when I say like, oh man, that that movie or show kind of sucks. Like I've been on the receiving end of that. I've had plenty of people tell me like, oh, Lost After Dark kind of sucks. I'm like, I get it, man. They, like, ain't for everybody, and it's hard. It's tough work, but also, I got a little skin in the game. I ain't afraid to take a stand.
Absolutely, and I think that does give you street cred.
It really does.
Right. I have zero cred. Street cred, life cred. I got no cred. I got barely podcasting cred. It's like been a year and a half. So thank you again, Bo. We'll start the movie shortly, but first let's make sure everyone is all queued up. Scotty, are you ready to go?
I am all set.
Bo, are you ready to go?
I am also all set.
Awesome. So on my count, 3, 2, 1, we'll hit play. So 3, 2, 1, go.
All right.
Anchor Bay Entertainment, was that the production company, and Raven Banner?
Yeah, they're releasing, not production. So
they're the releasing. Okay.
Yeah, they handle distribution.
And cool. I believe Raven Banner is a Canadian.
Gold Rush is the production. Gold Rush Entertainment is the production on that.
And I believe Raven Banner is like Canadian company.
Yeah, they did. The claim to fame was they were also handling The Battery at the same time, which is a big favorite of mine.
And I love that this is filmed in Michigan.
It says Michigan. Yeah,
it looks Michigan. That's actually Scott's house.
Yeah, right. That looks like the house I went to on my trip to the abandoned houses up north.
I think originally, because the idea was to kind of ape Halloween a little bit and do that, Haddonfield, Illinois, whatever year, and instead we were doing the Michigan 1977. I'd have to look at the script to see how far back that title card goes, but pretty far back. It's in the early versions.
That's awesome. Because as soon as I seen that, it made me smile. I'm like, Michigan.
He's like, I would like to be the killer as well in Michigan. So Bo, when we're looking at this opening scene here, a young lady runs out of a house. She runs into a bear trap, just narrowly missed it. So what was your thought of setting all this up? Well,
again, this was the idea of this is the end of the first movie. It is that this is like her finding all her friends and shit like that. And then she doesn't get away, Okay. And so, it was, again, it is the Friday the 13th 2 picking up where the last one left off kind of thing. And that's why it was fun to do a sequel to a movie that didn't exist, is you could be like, hey, remember this scene from the movie that didn't happen? And we were always kind of enamored by the idea of somebody being like, you know what? We always really liked House on the Hill. I'm glad somebody finally made a sequel to that. Because there would absolutely have been those people, and that entertained us to no end.
Now, I do have a question, though. What made you choose to have it set in Michigan?
It was just kind of that Midwest sort of vibe. Like that's sort of middle America. And that's where most of the slashers are kind of the best of the slashers. Like, and most of them are not big city movies, right? They're suburban areas and that kind of thing. And so that was it. It was like, let's find a suburb in somewhere in Michigan or, Canada. But that was the idea. It's just suburban Michigan, plain Jane, the most white bread American experience that we could think of.
Nice. Yeah. Cause I was like, this just like the outside shots definitely feel Michigan to me.
Now, with this opening here, we have a young lady, beautiful yellow dress. It's set in 1984. She's going on her first sleepover. So was this kind of like you wanted to keep it in the 80s? You wanted to keep that 80s slashers vibe? Is that what you were thinking with this?
Yeah, and we're, this is setting up the idea of like, here is the girl that you recognize from these movies, right? Like she's the innocent, she is the fresh-faced girl that like as this scene is explaining, like her mother has died. This is her kind of re-entering life again and trying to get back to the business of living, and her father saying, yeah, absolutely, you need to get out there and live your life. And so in most of these horror movies, right, like she confronts evil and the movie ends with her saving the day and sort of learning her own power. That's how most of these movies happen.
Absolutely. And I think you're setting her up perfectly. And obviously the casting was good too, because she's quite likable. Like already within that conversation with her dad, you kind of get the feeling that she's friendly. She's talked to her friend outside. She seems like someone that you would want to spend time with. So I think that's really smart character development too, even in that beginning scene. This principal guy is a well-known actor, actually.
Yeah, Robert Patrick, right? The Terminator, the T-1000 himself. Right?
So much stuff. I think it's great that he's here, and I love the high school dance that we're going into. Was this just also just keeping in with that kind of teenage theme and what you usually see in slashers is what you were thinking?
Yeah, and it's kind of the idea of, especially a lot of the older slashers, the first 20 minutes of it is all, introducing characters. You're getting kind of into the lives of, you're kind of learning the reasons why you want them to live or die, that kind of thing. And and keeping it in high school was certainly important, because for me, I'm a Halloween guy. I like the teenage babysitters being terrorized. That probably sounds worse than I intended.
You heard it here, everyone, on the Legion Podcast Network Patreon.
Right, but that's what I enjoyed, and so there are plenty of touches in this movie that is just, hey, here's some shit I liked. All the character names are final girls.
I thought they were going to be all your exes, Bo.
No. They're all they're all final girls.
Very nice.
That's cool.
Yeah. There's Jamie for Jamie Lee Curtis, and Adrian is Adrian Barbeau, and anyway, no, a lot of women in horror are represented.
Yeah. I didn't actually catch that before, so I think it's interesting that you're sharing this now, because I did watch this previously to doing this commentary.
Yep, same here.
And that's cool. That's a cool little thing that you added in there.
Total ripoff from Night of the Creeps. I was like, if it's good enough for Fred Decker, it's good enough for me.
I was just about to say, is that like a nod to it?
100%. Night of the Creeps is one of my favorite movies, and if you're making a movie, I'm gonna it's the reason this is fun for me to watch is getting away with that kind of shit.
Right.
There is a in the kids movie that I wrote, there is a line from Highlander nice. That I slipped into that movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what line that was.
It's it is the line about from the Kurgan in Highlander, where the girl comes in and the prostitute shows up at his hotel and says, "I'm Candy," and he says, "Of course you are." That is in the kids movie, only obviously under entirely different context.
Right.
But "My name is Candy, of course you are" is in that movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I don't know that anyone has ever noticed it but me, and that's what makes it great.
Right. Something just subtle that you enjoy.
Right. Like, you're going to hire me to write a kids movie. I'm going to include some Highlander dialogue. That's just how it goes.
That's what I love.
Now, I do love how you got these. Now, would you have anything to do with the casting? Because I gotta say, these gentlemen, it's kind of nice to see a diverse cast of not only body shapes, but a little bit of some ethnic diversity as well. Did you have anything to do with that, Bo, or was that just a decision that was made separately outside of you?
No, the characters are there as written. I mean, you know, like they were all, like, all of these guys and gals are kind of the characters that I had in mind. And you know, it's not the most diverse cast ever, but there's some diversity, and that was important. And
you do have a heavier set gentleman here, being kind of hanging out with the popular girls and hanging out with the popular guys, right? And he was the one that just, you know, what's that called?
Hotwire.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's right? the gadget guy.
Yeah. So I do like that. The rest of it's pretty whitewashed, which I do expect for Northern Ontario. But I was I just really, when I saw those three dudes there, I'm like, that's pretty diverse, actually. It's nice to see kind of dudes from different shapes. And even the young ladies are quite affable, and they're playing their characters, I think, quite well. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I think that the casting is perfect. Like, and it fits for the theme of the slasher that we're watching.
Though it does feel a little bit like Degrassi High with this filming, which is a well-known Canadian show, and I mean that as a compliment.
I'm familiar with Degrassi. I think some of these kids may have worked on Degrassi at some point.
They probably did.
Because they apparently some of them knew each other when they got cast.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so normally a writer would have nothing to do with the casting, but Ian and I worked together fairly well. By the way, that when Jamie has that flash there, that's kind of a director nod of like, oh, she's actually the final girl. She has this moment where she understands that everyone else is about to die.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and it's the only kind of nod in the early part of the movie to the idea that we're setting up this, you know, Lori to be kind of the main character. And we burn a lot of calories on like her relationship with the, you know, kind of the thug, and everybody's kind of down. Like the movie kind of centers around her up until it doesn't, which was fun. Anyway, but about the casting, normally a writer has nothing to do with the casting, but Ian and I were pretty close, so I got to see a lot of the videos, because that's how it starts. Is everybody submits a video sample. It's not really headshots and calling people into a room and stuff.
That's really cool. I really don't know how casting works. I have no idea. So that kind of gives a little bit of a sample into it. Yeah,
so you get these videos, and you start off, and this is just the corrupting influence of power. You start off with, hey, I want to look at every detail of the performance they're giving. I want to make sure that we give everybody their due. But after you see about 10 of them, you're just like, you listen to about 3 lines and you're like, no, that's not right. And it's weird, because you understand how dismissive you are of somebody's art, and it feels shitty, but also it's the business of movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of looking at an actor and just being like, nope. You know, so I had some degree of influence, which is rare, but it was an interesting look into that process for sure.
And that's neat, because I don't think I would have guessed that you would have had like any influence with like the casting choices.
Yeah, normally not, but I was on the phone a lot with Ian, even during the production and that kind of thing. Because, like I said, I was going to go up there for a little bit, but then it got shut down, and when it came back up, I just wasn't able to go. But I was like on the phone with him on breaks between shots and stuff like that.
Nice.
So he would be like, hey, because shit would have to change. Like, it's a low budget movie, and sometimes you have money to do a thing and sometimes you don't. And so there would be things where it'd be like, oh, we've got to, like, this scene right here was added later. Like, as the movie was being shot, this whole thing was added.
Oh, okay.
With this homeless guy being murdered, because they were like, we need somebody killed. And so it was like, oh, okay, well, how about this dude? And, you know, it establishes some stuff, but it didn't exist in the original script at all.
Nice. Yeah,
I enjoy the camera work here too, like leading up to behind the homeless guy. It takes me very much back to Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that.
everybody on the crew, like Ian put together Killer Mix. That's a real dumb joke. Like I said, there's stuff about this. There's one line in particular that still makes me laugh a lot in this movie. But yeah, like Ian had a list of movies for the crew, for like the director of photography, like, you know, The Burning and Friday the 13th and Halloween and stuff like that. So it was like, how do we kind of get sort of that vibe? And on digital, like all this is digitally shot, and you know, you throw a process over it to try to make it look more like film, and especially a little more like degraded film, but you don't want to overdo that, and you know, yada yada.
I'm loving that you're using a boombox on here, and I don't think any of these kids would have ever used cassette players ever until this film. They probably pulled this out and was like, all right guys, we're using this, and they were like, what sorcery is this?
Yeah,
so vintage.
Right, you're probably right. And by the way, we bought that bus. The production company bought that bus. That was a thing we owned.
That is awesome.
Amazing. Well, I love how she had a Rubik's Cube and then she throws it out the window and basically just gives up on it.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
Toy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a gag that was in the original script as well. Like there are a handful of jokes that are very much my sensibility for sure.
Well, and you know, I feel the same way about Rubik's Cube. So I kind of feel her. Like, you always think it's a good idea, and then you get like halfway through and you're like, why am I wasting my time on this? I don't understand what I'm doing.
I like that shot. I like that faraway shot of the bus.
Yeah, like the camera work in this was very well done, and definitely I'm glad no black bears made it into any of these scenes, because they are rampant in Sudbury, and I've run into them myself when I've been up in Sudbury. So I'm very happy that there was enough noise that they didn't come. Well, at least they didn't come looking for food, because people feed them a lot. So now knowing that, I'm very
unaware.
Surprised.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any bear activity on or around the production.
You know what? They're Canadians. They wouldn't have told you anywhere, but they would have been like, oh yeah, just same old, same old. I do.
This just happens all the time.
This is how it goes down. I do enjoy these young ladies just stripping down randomly and getting changed. I guess they're getting changed out of their prom stuff, right?
That's the idea, but this was also a scene added later, because the producers were like, "Hey, we don't have any tits in this movie," and we were like, "Yeah, well, you know, we didn't want to make some poor young actress take off her top for this movie, so you know." They were like, well, it's got to be a little sexy. So this was a scene that got written after the fact to make the producers have a slightly sexy movie.
Well, and you know what? It's not too bad. They're just wearing their bras and panties. It's not, you know, I don't think it's too scandalous.
No, it's not terrible. And, you know, it was one of those things that we kind of wrestled with, because I was of the mind that, like, I don't want an actress to be like, oh, well, I had to show my tits for this movie, just so some guy could jerk off to it, you know, because that's what you're saying.
Yeah, basically,
and I just didn't. I don't feel comfortable with that. So it was like, all right, well, a couple of girls kind of making out fine. Whatever.
Well, and it's funny because they are younger looking. Like, these are younger than what we would see in older slasher films. These do look like teenagers.
Right.
Like, they do look like they're 17, 16-year-olds.
I mean, they're all obviously of age, but, you know, yeah, you're right. And also just like, these are kids starting out at the beginning of their career, and you know, we live in the age of the internet. Once one of these girls gets topless, their tits are online forever and ever and ever. And
and then they're also known as the girl who will show her tits. So then, like in other movies, she'll be expected to.
Yeah, and even right, and even if it's completely consensual and all that stuff, it's like, but what's the point? You're just being you're being a little salacious to be salacious, and that's just, I mean. Yes, you're doing a slasher movie, but we are also doing a slasher movie on the heels of Men, Women, and Chainsaws, and like, we know better, and so why not be better?
Yeah, because like even on our show, we always talk about like how there's just pointless nudity in scenes for just no reason, just to show skin, and like it's like it's got to be part of the story for it to actually work, is how I look at it.
Right. Right. And, and you can kind of have this moment where, our asshole character sees him changing, and that's kind of a jerk move. And so you can play into that a little bit. Right.
Right.
So, big ups, by the way, to one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie coming up is when we go to Marilyn and Toby. Toby, of course, played by Jesse Camacho, who is a delightful human being. I talk to that guy, I wouldn't say regularly, but fairly regularly, quarterly, probably.
Nice.
And just a sweetheart of a dude. And
well, I think he's one of the stronger actors in this, to be quite honest.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
I think she's great too. So this is one of my favorite scenes because I really like both of them. I like the relationship of him, having this secret love for her and her just not recognizing it, and that being painful for him,
Yeah.
I've been there.
Sure. Like, I'm a fat kid too. I've been there. Like, this character is totally me, except not dead. But the thing I also like about this is this story that he tells about being high in home ec class is 100% a story that my friend Ben Kennedy told me once.
Nice.
So
Nice.
It is now memorialized in film.
That's amazing. I agree. Their interactions here is so authentic. How they're talking and telling a story. You actually feel like you're eavesdropping on two friends. Like, it's actually really, really well done. It's well written from you, Bo, and extremely well delivered by these two. It's great.
Thank you. And yes, I agree that I think they are terrific in the movie. She's got a moment later. She was on like the 100 after this.
Oh, wow.
She has a line later on, kind of the moment right before she dies, that is real nihilistic, and I really love it. She has a great delivery. I think she's terrific. Jesse, like I said, I adore him. I think he's great in the movie, and he's a great guy. And
do you talk to any of the others? So we have a bunch of other actors and actresses here. Have you ever spoken to any of them?
No, because again, I never went to the set, and I was kind of in on some of the selection process, but that's kind of where it ended. Jesse was just a dude he's a big horror fan. He reached out to me because he was like, I think this is really cool, and we are forever talking about the sequel to Lost After Dark. So he's really the only actor that I talk to. I talk to Ian, all the time still.
Now, this dog, was this because you wanted like Muffy or Muffin to have a chance to come back again?
No.
That's a good question, though.
No, this is I don't like small dogs.
Oh.
No, this is 100% me doing a thing in a movie I could never ever do in real life, which is to kill this little yippy small dog, and in the most horrible possible way I could think of.
So everyone, do not leave your small dogs around Bo. This is what we have learned today on this commentary.
If they're well behaved, it's fine. Look, this dog would be fine if it could shut its fucking mouth. That's the lesson here. If this dog had been quiet, would still be alive today.
Moral messages right here. You heard it. You heard it on this commentary.
Yeah.
Now, I love yet again, I really just love this character development between these two. I don't mind the others, including the final girl, but why wasn't, and I don't know the young lady in the leather jacket's name, I apologize, but why wasn't she your final girl? She seems to have final girl potential.
She does, but the idea all along was who is the least likely person.
Okay.
And let me, because you're right, we need to be putting a name, and I cannot remember. I remember the character's name, which is terrible and does an incredible disservice.
I'll look it up as well too. Is it Marilyn? Eva Harlow?
Eve Harlow is her name. Eve Harlow. Eve is, she was like, from the first time we saw her audition video, it was like, fucking yes. Whatever role we can stick her in, you get her in this movie.
Nice.
She was just, she was so good that I was like, she was perfect for Marilyn, but you're right, she could have been a final girl.
Yeah, like she has these strong women characteristics that you look for in a final girl.
Or even Marilyn could have been a final girl.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what I was more or less thinking, because I do like, and I think that would have been, don't get me wrong, I really like your movie, Bo. I'm not trying to indicate that you chose the wrong character. I just think she's a very strong character so far, and very affable, while at the same time being a badass.
Well, and all right, so let me say this also about kind of the ultimate story of Lost After Dark. In the original script, there was nothing really superhuman about the killer at all, and in fact is killed at the end of the film. And the idea that thematically was that, that death is random, right? Like yes, this person should absolutely, it's sort of in descending order, right? Like Jamie should absolutely be the final girl because she's the young girl who's falling in love and all that stuff. And then when she dies, which will happen here in a minute, then it's like, well, Marilyn is the tough girl and she'll make it. And then you kill her. And it's like, well, all bets are off. Anybody can go. Is the idea behind it. Now, was the execution entirely successful? Maybe not. I think with the change in the end of the movie where the killer just kind of goes on, I think maybe it makes the point a little less successfully, but those things happen.
What it reminds me of, though, is kind of like the TV series or the books Game of Thrones. Like, you just don't know who's gonna survive. I like that. Like in any horror film when they pull that off, I like that where it's like, oh, I think I know who's gonna be the survivor. Oh no, okay, next person. Nope, okay.
Yeah. I mean, right, and that was sort of the idea behind it. Even from the original script was you create a slasher movie where you cannot predict the order of people's death. Because that's one of my big like so much of this script was like, here's what I don't like about slasher movies, now let me make the one I would like to watch.
Right.
And so yes, not being able to predict who dies next was important for me, and maybe and you're right, I could have overextended that by a measure for sure.
I really loved this bus scene, and at first I'll be honest with you, Bo, when I first saw it, I was like, man, this seems like a really long time for them to be out in this bus for. And then as it kind of goes on, I get the atmosphere that was created here. They've had some drinks, they've been listening to some music, and they start to hear things outside the bus. And you're also allowing the relationships to grow between all these characters, and also your introduction of the small dog, which allows you to live out your fantasies about getting rid of the small dogs very shortly.
That's right.
I think that's really interesting, and I think it makes sense that they bought the bus because you use it quite a bit. Like, it is a big, it's used as a big scenery section. It almost feels it takes me back to Jeepers Creepers 2, to be honest with you.
It does.
Even though it's nothing like Jeepers Creepers 2, it's just maybe because there's a bus, I automatically go there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. Jeepers Creepers 2 was not a film when I originally wrote it, but it's also, there was supposed to be fog here, and that is a thing that it turned out to be financially prohibitive.
Okay, yeah, I can imagine that would have been challenging to do.
Right, for this big a space and that kind of thing. Or you rent kind of a studio space, like a giant interior warehouse kind of space, and do it there. But that's a whole other set of problems. So anyway, I think if we'd had the fog, I think the scene plays much better. But it's sort of the idea that you're kind of transitioning from, at this point of the movie, as soon as we hit the road together. And there's really one dramatic moment where they all look up at the house. That's like, okay, we are shifting from let's get to know everybody to, well, let's start murdering them all now.
Yep. Yeah, so you can definitely tell there's that switch when it happens.
Yeah. And I always like this touch of him reassembling the gun.
Yeah.
Yes, I always enjoy gun scenes because, first of all, I think that's an extremely complicated thing to do. Is reassemble this gun. And I also enjoy the 80s sweaters that this dude has. And like, let's be real here, whoever did the setting for this house totally made it look like it came from 1984. Like the sailboat, who has a fucking sailboat like that anymore?
I think I still have one in my attic.
Yeah, but do you have it displayed for everyone to
No.
see? No. Usually that's something we have up at cottages out here.
Right.
And even
same
that
in
plaid,
Michigan.
like, fucking couch that we got going on.
I mean, the oven looks very 70s.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Even the tea kettle in the back looked like it was 70s style.
And little touches like that help make a film. And even the tea towels. Oh, you're right. And the puzzles, 1,000-piece puzzles, because they don't fuck around. And it's 500-piece puzzle bullshit. It's interesting. And the whole dialogue that you were looking at here between the dad and the principal, was it just to kind of move the plot around that he's finding out that his daughter is gone kind of thing?
Yeah, it's like, how do we get the vice principal to the scene of the crime?
Right.
And actually Robert Patrick is the guy who came up with the line, "Give me the coordinates," or "What are the coordinates?" I thought that was quite funny. That happened on set. Hey, there you go. There's your
this
shot.
is where it happens.
Yeah,
I can't believe
that's a good shot.
where they found this house, because it is just so creepy and perfect.
Yeah, like I said, this looks like one of the old abandoned houses I would see out in the old mining towns in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's like, that's what this reminds me of so much.
There was a movie that, all credit to Ian for this one. There was a movie that I think shot just before or just after us at the same location, another horror movie, and totally fucking blew using the location. Like, they just didn't shoot it right. It looked terrible.
Really?
Yeah. And I couldn't tell you what the movie was now. I don't remember it all. But anyway, yeah, no, our DP was so much better at using this space, and yeah, like it looks great. Like, this was I get, like, the exterior is different from the interior, but because you couldn't shoot inside that house because it was falling down and it was dangerous, but it looked amazing.
Yeah. And I was saying, like, that outside shot too kind of reminded me of like the shot during the day in Texas Chainsaw Massacre when they're coming across the house for the first time.
Oh, 1,000,000%. That's where that comes from. Yeah, we're like, there is no. I would not say there is anything terrifically original about this movie, but we at least wear our inspiration on our sleeve.
Right, and I love that where it's not just like in your face, but it's like, if you're a horror fan, you'll just notice, oh, I bet I know where they got that inspiration from.
Right. Like, if you're watching this, hopefully you saw TCM and you knew that shot. Even though there's not, an ass shot involved.
Yeah, right. That's because you're a little more classy.
Yeah, a little classy. With our, I get the actors had a name for the fake squirrel. I wish I could remember what it was. It was like Buck or something. It was really funny. When I heard that detail that they had named that particular gag, I was pleased.
Yeah, you can tell that these guys got along really well on the set. There actually seems like some general chemistry and enjoyment to being around each other. And I can't get over how creepy this house is. I think it's actually a really good touch. And I'm impressed that they went and scoped this out and filmed it here. It kind of also reminds me of another movie I saw recently, which this is better than that movie, but it was a Truth and Dare movie. It wasn't the Blumhouse Truth or Dare movie. It was another one that came out prior to the Blumhouse one, and it was all based in an old creepy house like this. Some of these houses, man, they just nail it. There's something about being in a house that is decrepit and fucking around with flashlights, what Toby's doing right now with the flashlight, and teasing your friends, which comes across really creepy, which is something that Scott Crawford would like to do.
I was waiting for you to bring me into this one way or another.
When he goes to the UP and he tries to find if he can reenact this movie with his friends. Only in real life.
Hey, man, I mean, you gotta live adventurously, Heather. That's why I go to these abandoned houses. You never know what you'll find. Will it just be an empty, decrepit house, or will there be hillbillies or chainsaw wielding maniacs? You never know.
It's true. It's true.
Oh, they hold hands.
I think that's really cute.
Here's something I was just kind of quietly appreciating about this that I have zero to do with, but the lighting inside this house, like getting it lit without it being too glaring and still have the flashlights work and everything, really difficult to be able to see this and not overblow it, and also that kind of blue color grading I think works. I'm like, this looks pretty good.
I have to admit, because I did dabble a little bit with lighting when I used to go to when I had a film class, and I was the one that was always tasked to do the lighting because I was better at just kind of getting everything to look right. And yeah, doing it like this, this is incredible, because like trying to film something in the dark is impossible. So you have to have some lighting, and that you just got to find that right amount.
No, and I mean, there are definitely some scenes where if you're looking for it, you'll clearly see like, oh, they're outside and somebody just backlit a tree and blasted the light to get the scene lit.
Yeah,
but stuff like this like, obviously somebody's throwing light from that upper right, but it's real subtle and it looks good. Anyway, sorry, I'm appreciating a technical aspect of this movie that I, again, nothing to do with. I just happen to like it.
Well, and
it's a good thing to point out, though.
Like, this is your show too here, Bo. Like, really, we wouldn't be doing this if you hadn't written this. And I think one of the biggest reasons why Scott and I wanted to do this is because we admire you so much that we thought it was important to recognize this. Because I think you're way too humble about your involvement in this film. Like, I had to dig into talking to you before it came out. I would be leading with this shit all the time when I talk to people. I'd be like, hi, my name's Heather. Did you know I wrote a movie? Yeah, I sure fucking did. You can rent it.
I should lead with that. Yeah, I suppose that's true. I am humble to a fault at times.
Yeah, because it took a while before I knew that you wrote this, because like no one, like I got Podcast by the Cemetery and the Network, and you and I were talking. Like, I think it took a few days of just conversation before like you had said, oh, you guys should review this movie at some point.
Well, and you see, Scott has no problem bringing up his old podcast that we don't speak of anymore.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why you should have a problem.
So here's a fun thing. So when they found this building, this location, there was this whole separate building that here's some shit we wrote the day of the production, where he was like, man, we've got this building and we're just gonna have this scene where they go through it because it's really creepy. And he was like, all right, so just I need some dialogue for Marilyn and Toby walking through this place. It needs to be about, I don't know, 40 seconds. And so that kind of shit happens on this movie too.
And to be able to come up with something on the fly like that too, that's talent. Because I need lots of time to kind of process how to do something like that.
Well, all I did was steal a conversation that Ian and I had, because there was one point in the script where I described one of the rooms as an abattoir, and he was like, I don't know what that is. Nobody's gonna know what that is. And so I changed it in that scene, only to add that whole conversation back in a later scene.
Nice.
So that it was kind of not a dig at Ian or anything. It was just like, hey, it would be funny if like, hey, here's a private conversation we had. That's kind of an in joke in the movie now, is this conversation between Toby and Marilyn is a conversation that Ian and I had about whether or not people knew what an abattoir was.
That is great, actually. I like that.
Yeah. It's fun shit,
Would you ever consider making a sequel to this film?
Yeah, there's one mostly written that is way crazier.
Nice.
Is it going to be filmed in Canada?
Well, I mean, will it ever be filmed? Probably not.
But if it was filmed in Canada, would you cast me in the film?
Absolutely.
There you go, Scott. You hear that?
Rub it in, Heather. Rub it in.
We need about, I don't know, $2 million to make it. So let's start the GoFundMe.
Is that now Canadian or American?
That's probably Canadian.
Well, that's not that bad. That's like $50 American.
Yeah,
What's the problem?
These days. Right. But yeah, though there is a script that is mostly done that continues this story. Absolutely.
I do enjoy, yet again, the character. Like, these two are really the strongest characters. I really dig their interactions. Um, and I don't know, the ditzy blonde is, or whatever she's supposed to be. It's good, and her kind of jerky boyfriend. But I find that there are only a handful of characters that I'm really concerned about something happening to them.
Right.
Well, yeah, but the jerky boyfriend and the kind of airhead girl, like, those are the characters you're supposed to be like, you know what?
Exactly.
When they go, I hope it's terrible. and it kind of is. They get the worst of it, I think.
Yeah, because you kind of root for these two, and then Toby, and what was her name? Miranda?
Marilyn, named after Marilyn Chambers, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, like those, like, these are the two that I kind of root for the most. But I'm also a sucker for like relationships in horror, as like I've talked about many, many times.
The leaning up on the tiptoes, I think, is a nice touch. It's
cute.
Yeah.
It's very endearing. And did you write that in there, or was that just her improvising?
No, that was written in there, but the shot was Ian's, so he really hammered that, and it was nice. Yeah, I think I thought it worked.
I do.
Oh, here's another shot I like. I like the shot up.
Yeah.
Or the
like shot from down the bottom of the stairs shooting.
Yeah.
Upwards.
And then you get a reverse in a second that I think is quite good. Anyway, I watch enough cheap horror movies that seeing one, there are plenty of places in this movie that I'll tell you, like, yeah, that didn't quite come off the way that we had hoped or whatever. But I think this looks much better than most cheap horror movies you see.
Absolutely.
I agree. I wouldn't clarify. I would never put this in a cheap horror movie category. I've seen some real cheap horror movies in the last 2 years. I don't know, Bo, maybe we've watched one or two together.
Maybe.
But, I think this is done, obviously it's low budget, but it's low budget done well. And Scott and I have talked about that a lot, is using your budget where it counts. And I think this film did that. And I guess that would be in credit to Ian.
Yeah, a large part of that, and there's line producers and so forth involved as well, who, there are a million office jobs, not a million, but there are, a handful of office jobs that are just people getting all that shit to organize and come together. But yeah, it's, Ian did a great job, so I will champion him to the end of my days for turning a script that was, again, it was fairly old at that point, and I never expected to see it, and being able to see like a scene like this that I really like, of them just kind of in the bar and chit chatting. It's a real writer scene, and I like it.
I do like. I think it's funny that you said that this character here, Bo, represented you, because the delivery of his lines here of trying to flirt with him is really sweet, and there's no way she can't know what's going on. Like, there is no way in a billion years she hasn't picked up on his vibes, and I just think,
in my personal experience, yeah.
Let me tell you from my personal experience, being a female, you just pretend like you don't know.
Okay,
she
that's
knows.
fair.
Okay,
that's
sometimes
fair.
you try to save people's feelings by pretending like you don't.
But are you saving their feelings?
Oh no, you're not.
Right.
Bo, I don't roll that way.
No. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm saying, and again, we're talking about high school. This is a very high school kind of romance.
Absolutely.
It is the love that he's yearning for, that he can't have, and it is very dramatic, as most young love is.
Absolutely, and I think you capture that well, and I really like that about this, is that I think she knows, and she's trying to play down, and a little bit of a manipulation thing, which happens in high school.
It does.
Women
do
mature quicker, and as much as she's nice to him, I do really value this relationship between the two of them. I actually think it's the strongest relationship out of all these now, rewatching it. even the couple that kiss for the first time, or
these
two that are making out randomly. I do love how much these two make out throughout this movie. I am enjoying that quite a bit.
Yeah, well, you have to have that horny couple.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I like the fact that there's a moment where she pushes back on him, where she's like, "Why are you so mean to me?"
Yes, we saw that line earlier. It was pretty good.
And I like that. I like her just being like, "Look, we're both playing a role here, like he's the bad boy and whatnot." But yeah, I that was the whole thing, is like, can you throw a line or two here and there in this movie that gives a little depth to these characters? And I say that just as there's a blowjob joke where he freaks out and she makes a joke about using teeth.
I do love that line.
It's we contain multitudes as people, as does this movie. It is character moments, slasher movie, and blowjob jokes.
And I just loved that shot too, where the camera pans in on that crack through the wall and you see the killer's eyes just kind of looking through.
Yeah. That's again, that's a great Ian shot. He was like, "We need to see him more." I was like, "Oh, no, hide him." And he was like, "Shut up, Bo. I'm a director." So
shut up, Bo. I'm the director. That's funny. I do enjoy the build-up happening. I the whole like teenage thing of them all getting back together and being shocked at what they're finding. That's a pretty creepy shit to find.
Yeah.
That'd be like Scott's fantasy, but for most people, they would be concerned. He'd be grabbing the skull and taking it home with him.
No, I don't think I would actually touch anything in there. I think I would be taking lots of pictures, being like, "Check out this. I survived somehow, but look what I found."
Yeah, you probably would have been posting it to Facebook. #live skull. #scared.
Yep. # Heather was right. Should not have done this.
Yeah.
One of my biggest regrets surrounding this movie is that I did not get any of the prosthetics used.
Oh, that's
from that altar. I asked, but Ian was like, "Look, man, the people on set are looting that shit. There is no way."
Damn. Yeah, that would have been cool to have a little piece of that.
I wanted the squirrel, and that was never going to happen. Show you where the writer is on the.
Ooh, I like the little small shoes as a touch. That's good. That's extra creepy. Little kid stuff in fucking abandoned houses is always creepier.
Yes.
I also like Eve's delivery there of, "Is that made of people?" She is good stuff.
Ooh, was cannibals your thing that you wanted to add into this, Bo? Is the cannibals thing a really important thing for you?
No, but it was fun,
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of being eaten by somebody's kind of gnarly. That's a bad way to go.
Well, it depends on what kind of eating you're doing.
Just
anyway,
about to say that.
Sorry, Bo, wrong commentary.
I get it.
We got to bleed in a little bit of our regular type of podcast into this.
That's right. Friday Nightmares podcast, everyone. We're very professional. Please check us out on the Legion Podcast Network. After you're done listening to a good show like Pick Six, come and listen to us.
No. Just different is all.
We'll say that. Just different. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I do like the music in this too. The music's picked up. They're getting creeped out. They're piecing out. She's bringing her oversized purse with her puppy, which is crazy. Why the dog can't walk on its own accord?
Because do you know how difficult it is to get a dog to do what you want on set?
This is true. Good point.
That's a good point, actually.
It is way easier to be like, "Hey, that purse is moving around because the dog's inside, y'all," and then fuck off.
And it's just funny because that dog's pretty huge to be putting. For a small dog, it's pretty big.
You shut your mouth, Scott. It's in the purse.
You know what, Scott? You don't need to criticize Bo's art, okay?
No, that was it was a problem. How do you keep the dog in the movie without keeping the dog in the movie?
Yeah.
Because at one point it was like we tried a puppet dog at one point. It looked like shit, and we were like, well, it's just better not to show it than to show the puppet. So
Yeah, just to give the idea that it's in there is all you
Right.
need.
Just, you know what?
Wow, he's an asshole. He showed her his middle finger. What a dick. You really are painting up this woman to be the final girl, for sure. I forgot her name now, and I had it up.
Yeah.
Jamie, thank you. And it's, of course, you use Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is the...
right?
Yeah.
Totally does kind of layer it for her to be that role.
Yeah.
And then they kind of... I do like how they hear what's happening and they kind of get creeped out as it goes. Like, I do enjoy this steady build of creepiness that you're happening. Like, you're laying down the layers. And same with Ian directing it to build up to what's going to happen.
And the whole idea was you just escalate until by the the last 20-30 minutes of this movie, it is just it's just constant like running and murder and that kind of thing, which it pretty much is. Like, for better or worse, like this is kind of the pacing we wanted, which was start off slow, build, and then once you start killing people, just keep killing them until the movie's over.
Yeah, but I was saying, I like, and it, like the way you pace it out, it's perfectly, especially with the dialogue and everything. It keeps you interested all the way up until this point. Because I've seen some slashers where it's like I lose interest before any of the cool stuff actually starts happening because it's just not, the dialogue's not intriguing enough.
Now, what a kill this is. I love this kill on Jamie. Oh my God.
Yeah, I like that too.
And the first time I saw this film, I was shocked.
It's pretty gnarly.
Did not see that coming, Bo, and I was like, oh.
I'm a big fan of her getting dragged off into the dark too. I think that works all right.
And you feel bad for poor Toby. He's tied up by barbed wire on his face. How fucked is that?
It's kind of fucked up.
Like, you'd have to be a real fucked up person to write that.
Him crying as he watches is real fucked up. Yeah, I agree.
They probably fucked up enough to run a network or something about podcasts, right?
All right, so there's a bit of dialogue here. I like that shot a lot. That works for me. All right. It's Heather.
I do enjoy this panic conversation here. It makes a lot of sense how everyone's reacting.
It's Heather saying, "I don't want to be eaten by a cannonball."
Yes.
And
there it is.
Yeah. I love that joke a lot. It makes me laugh every damn time. Because I think this is a bit of an actress thing. This, like, Lainey Macaulay is her name. Lainey, I think, delivers that line really well.
She really did.
Right. It's just you can't acknowledge that what you're saying is wrong, and she gets it right. But so there you have it. We murder our final girl, and then kind of all bets are off, and then you start picking them off. Is kind of the thing. And you get a little nibble.
Yeah.
I'll say you at least gotta have a little taste before you go on killing again.
Well, you got to keep protein up, right? And that's really what it comes down to, right?
Right. He's got a lot to do. There's a lot of kids, and you got to kill them all.
Yeah, like you don't want to get too tired.
Sure. And so as these movies kind of go, you kind of bring everybody together, and then you start splitting them up. But you also kind of want to at least pay lip service to the idea of, like, well, if you're going to be in that scenario, what would you do to try to stay alive? Like, what is your, like, what's your strategy for survival?
Right. Yeah, I'd probably be one of the first characters to die.
My strategy would not be in the situation.
Mine would...
You'll appreciate this, Heather. There's a major Fulci reference coming up.
Oh, I love Fulci.
Yeah,
he's the man. I'm huge, actually. I have posters all over my house. I just keep them hidden from people,
right. And
so they don't know. how much of a fan I am.
And obviously here was the emotional beat for Johnny to try to give him a little depth where he's like, yeah, he's a tough guy, but as soon as sees someone killed, he's like, fuck, that shit got real.
He's like, I wasn't prepared for this. I just want to do sports and do more sports.
Right.
And wear my sports jacket.
Yeah,
I want to bang and talk down to my woman.
Yeah, I mean, it's just my dad's are rich. I'm an asshole because of it. I he's an entitled little prick, but
but he's still human. That's what that shows.
Well, yeah, and like that kind of bravado usually is hiding a lot of fear.
Yeah,
it's very deep though. I feel like we just dove real deep on that one.
I was saying we don't go deep on the on the Friday Nightmares podcast.
No, we stay in like wading pools. That's what we do. we don't like going below our knee.
Okay,
like
so
keep it shallow.
Here's a few low budget horror movie tropes that I'm happy we avoid. One, I think it looks good.
Yes.
For the most part. Two, I think that we killed the kids in a number of different ways.
It's not the same old.
Right. I like that move too. I don't like a movie where it's just like, stabby over and over again. I like the fact that, our villain Junior is, he uses some shit laying around. And
yes.
And the one thing I really love and appreciate too, on-screen kills.
Yes.
Yeah. We did like there's some not so great CGI here and there, but for the most part, this was all in camera stuff, as much as we could, So, and I think most of it comes off well. Like I think, for the most part, all the kills look pretty good. That first Jamie one, I think, is great. I think
I think Jamie's kill is epic, and I think where things were possibly not like you shot stuff in the back, and like where you're turning this, I guess what would be a gardening tool, into this kid's back, you're showing it from angles that allows it to be scary, but also not break the bank in the budget and look very practical. Like I'm pretty sure that was a complete practical, was it?
Yeah, that's right. a totally. I mean, right? You're cheating a lot of the angles where you're showing the twist and stuff. You cut the end of it off, and that kind of thing. And again, I think all that works pretty well.
Yeah, I say it looks really good.
Yeah, like the only time I think we get in trouble in this movie is when we lean on the CGI at times, which there are times we had to, and oh, everybody left me. I'm all alone.
I was just gonna say, like, where did Heather go?
I don't know. I was like, finally, the truth can be told now that I'm alone.
Now I can explain everything.
Right now, everything will come clear. Yeah. I think. Yeah, this is the point. Like, all right, we got to split everybody up, so we got to chase them out of the house, and get them all into their separate locales so that we can fuck them up.
Yep, because like so far they were doing the smart thing of all sticking together, but yeah, this is how you can kind of get them separated and kind of herd them in the direction that the killer needs them to be herded.
Yeah. Little spoiler for Lost After Dark 2, the movie that may or may not ever exist except in written form. Yeah, you got to have the kill me moment in a movie. The Toby actually does survive. There's
really?
Yeah, he deals. I like the premise of it is that Jamie, who does not do well after the events of this movie and ends up being institutionalized for a time, that she ends up kind of tracking Junior after he escapes, and so it's her going after him after she once she figures out where he is. She busts out of the loony bin, goes to Toby, who has survived also.
Oh, and I love the whole reel missing, like it's an old Grindhouse movie.
Yeah, that was an Ian thing. That was one of those like, you know what? If I'm gonna make a movie, I'm gonna use the real joke. I've always wanted to do it. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and it kind of cheats the fact that like we hide our final girl. And
now,
yeah.
did you get flack for that from people who had seen it?
Not really. I think most people kind of went with it. I don't know that a lot of people were like, you know, how dare they not give us information? I mean, I think in a world after the movie The Village, that any slight cheat is okay if you're not as stupid as that.
That's interesting. I like The Village. We'll have to have a conversation about that at another time.
The end of that movie, if it hadn't happened so close to the end of the movie, I would have walked out. But I was like, we'll talk about it. We'll have to have a
debate. We should have a Heather and Bo debate thing, because like Bo and I actually disagree on most things.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that we're both equally awesome.
Right. Mutual fans who agree on nothing.
True, actually. We'll do a new show. We'll get t-shirts and everything. It will be great.
I'll be the moderator between the debate.
Oh, good luck.
This what you're about to see is the Fulci nod.
Oh,
excellent.
Nice.
Okay.
Which is a direct reference to Zombie.
So we're in the house. It does look foggy outside.
Yeah, I mean, if we got lucky on the night.
Shit, that even startled me just now. The hand through the window, that got me.
Yeah. It's a good
This
scare.
is definitely the Fulci one right here.
Yep.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
All right, so this is also a practical effect, which I like a whole lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a great effect. Excellent work. So just for people who can't see this, the window is broken. There is some glass, and a young man's eye is pushed in, and you see it. You see the eye being penetrated, and it's quite good. So if you haven't watched this movie, please do, because that scene alone is worth it.
So
that is definitely. I thought if you didn't mention that, I would have definitely like, hey, that's definitely inspired by Zombie.
Yeah, but it absolutely is. It is. Anyway, so that was all practical. That was a cow eye, is what.
Okay.
There, and there's a little bit of digital sweetening to that effect, which is where the CGI actually works for us.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, even when even if the CGI is iffy in some of these films back in the day, it's like it's just part of the product of the time is how I look at it. Like, because CGI took some time before started really getting good, but I like it when it's practical where the CGI enhances the practical.
Yeah, absolutely, and that I think worked real well there. There was a fight around that gag because I was constantly like, he needs to struggle more. Like, we need more. And because the zombie one seems like it goes on forever.
Yes.
And so Ian and I had this whole debate where it was like, no, you can't linger on it that long. It at some point it goes from scary and awful to boring.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I know, but like he needs to really be struggling and pulling back, and it needs to be terrible. And so that was the compromise scene between the two of us, like him wanting it shorter and me wanting it longer. But I think it works real well.
It does.
I think that's a good gag.
Yeah, because the one in Zombie, it does kind of just get to the point where it's like, all right, come on.
Yeah,
I know what's going to happen at this point.
Yeah, this is one of those times where I'm like, it always pains me to say when someone else is right, but yeah, he absolutely was.
You'll be saying it a lot on our debate show.
I was just about to say,
get used to it now, Bo.
I got you.
I have a feeling you'll be trying to pull that out of Bo, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm such a fucking asshole. Anyway, back to the movie.
Yeah, so there's a 1-2 death coming up that is maybe in terms of the murders. This is because again, these are kind of our asshole characters. Yep. How do you do this in a way that's pretty terrible?
Yep. Yeah, and I love that they're very coupley. These two, honestly, they're going everywhere as a couple.
Yeah,
and I kind of dig that. They're assholes, but they're assholes together.
Yeah, like
right.
he could have been the asshole that just like ditched her like when the killer shows up.
And I think that says something about Johnny, is that he's not that guy. Like he's an asshole, but he's not terrible.
Yeah.
You know, like he's not the worst person in the world. And yeah, like when things get real here in a minute, he's like, look, you know, and you know, I kind of get his plan of like, we're going to hide here. Stay fucking quiet. We're just going to wait this out till the sun comes up, and then we're going to bail. And he does it with her. Like he never abandons her in this movie.
No, he does not.
Or the dog.
Well, the dog scene. Oh boy, that's coming up here.
Yeah. But like again, this is just puerile anger about little dogs that can't shut their fucking yaps.
But you know, it says something for you to work with a dog, because dogs are tough to work with. That, what do they say? Dogs and children. And to write about a dog being in there and then to include it must have been challenging, because there is a lot of guidelines you have to use when working with animals.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, not for me. I just put it on the paper, and then like, I'm like, it's your fucking job to figure it out. Yeah. and that's why you don't see the dog all the time in this movie, because the dog's a real pain in the ass. Like dogs don't do what you want. And trained dogs are super expensive.
Exactly.
So you know, these are just plain Jane. I can't remember exactly where the dogs came from. I feel like they were dogs like from people in town or something.
So probably somebody's pet.
Yeah, right. So these were not like these ain't your Hollywood dogs.
Right.
These ain't Hollywood dogs.
These are your Canadian dogs.
These are neighborhood dogs.
Yeah.
Like these Canadian dogs only drink the finest bagged milk.
Robert Patrick not trucking with any tomfoolery from these kids.
So none of these shenanigans are going to go down. I do love this scene in the car. I do think this was really clever on your part, Bo. I really like it a lot, actually.
Like, yeah, they're actually being smart where they're hiding for one.
Well, like, and it just kind of really builds the tension, and it builds them, and you feel bad for them, and like it does finally begin to build some kind of empathy.
Yeah.
Right. Again, the whole idea of like even the terrible characters try to give them a little bit of depth so that they're not just two-dimensional awful people. Although this character appears, the Heather character, almost identically in a movie called Shark Night 3D.
Oh, yes.
And with a dog and everything. And I was like, when I saw that movie, I was like, God damn it. They did. I think I saw it like right before this came out. And I was like, oh, they got our Heather character. I guess but I feel like we gave her more to do. That same kind of character, like murdering her own dog. Also,
oh god, yeah. This I don't know if I could actually do this. Like if I was in her situation.
And it's also just being a little bit sadistic as a writer.
Yes.
And I fully acknowledge that there's a little bit of just juvenile sadism in this scene, where I was just like, how fucked up would it be to have to kill your own pet and then for it not to matter?
Yeah.
You know?
I personally, and I will tell you, Bo, I found this scene very challenging. That's why I'm actually looking away.
Yeah.
It actually really upsets me. I have a hard time with this scene. And that's fine. I think it's great that you put it in there, because that to pull that emotion from me is important. Right?
It's a cheap trick, right? Like it doesn't, but I feel like I at least had an axe to grind, and it makes it a little bit better.
We may need to dive deeper into this one day on why you hate these tiny little dogs so much.
My stepmother's dog, Dixie. I like that.
You're like, and get one and call it Dixie.
Yeah. I like a pitchfork through the guts.
Yes.
Oh man, what a great fucking scene this is.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I like the fact that she's alive when she looks at him. It takes her a second to go.
Yeah, and I like that she's like just kind of shaking, and just the way she's acting through that scene is like really believable.
Yeah, and then escape under the car, and then a simple little kick of the foot. And Squish.
And squishy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not shying away from the blood and gore in this movie, and I love it.
Well, right. I mean, if you're gonna do it, fucking do it.
Right.
Is there anything when you watch these kills that you had wish you written differently?
Oh, that's a good question.
The one coming up where we toss Robert Patrick's head, that only because that effect just doesn't really come off. That I'm, in retrospect, I wish we'd done something different there. Most of the kills I'm real pleased with. Like, that's one of those things where I can't complain. Like, what I wrote is what shows up on the screen, and if there's a problem with it, that's my fault. But I like most of those kills. I'm trying to think if there's one I don't really like. Maybe, speaking of Marilyn, maybe hers there in a different world that would have been a little pulpier. But she still goes bad. Like, even that is not great, and it's a pretty good shot. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm pretty pleased with the kills in the movie. Yeah, I don't know what I would change there. Like, definitely in the sequel script, like, the shit gets crazier because you gotta. But I don't know for this movie that I would go more over the top than what we have. I feel like they're pretty visceral and they're pretty effective.
Yeah, especially for kind of like, at this point, a one-off style movie. It's like, I didn't expect this when I watched it the first time and seen all these kills. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, Heather will be familiar with this one, but if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly, right? Like, yeah, don't don't fuck around if you're going to. And that was again a discussion we had early on of like, how graphic are we going to get? And I don't think we get disgusting.
No,
but it's like, well, like, we're going to put glass in a dude's eye, and we're going to see somebody, on a cutting block, and like, here in a second we're going to see somebody get their head smashed in, and that, like, we're not going to shy away from that stuff, but we're not going to go nuts with it,
right? Like, you kind of like have the border on, like, you're right on the border of, like, just right where it should be.
Yeah, but I do like this moment from Marilyn's character. Again, I think Eve Arlo's a great actor, and she does a great job here, and I think it all works.
Yeah, the delivery of this monologue here, or not, I guess it's not really a monologue, but it's really good.
She's great.
Like, fuck, she's great. Like,
I was just about to say something about this too.
It's really interesting to see the acting chops come through, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still think that she's got a big future ahead.
Oh, man.
Speaking of ahead.
Oh, wah, wah, wah. Awesome kill. Awesome kill here.
So that's how you give head. Got it.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly how it goes down. And she's smart to run with her big stick. I would probably run too. I appreciate that here.
There's some juvenile humor I could have thrown in there, but I'm not going to. But
sure.
And now, did you describe that the principal would be driving this yellow fucking sports car?
No, that's an Ian thing. I mean, the character was always real uptight and so forth, and in the spirit of like, well, let's give every character a little bit of depth. Ian
looks like he's someone from the militia, the Michigan militia.
Well, yeah, right. The idea is that he's a real right-wing kind of wound tight kind of dude, but that his deal, I think originally the gag was that he listened to like Ride of the Valkyries real loud and shit. And it was Ian who was like, let's have him drive kind of a loud sports car and listen to disco and shit. And I was like, all right, that's funny. So
I love it.
And he's around that age where he would be trying to recapture his youth anyway, so it kind of fits.
It does fit. It does, absolutely. I love this standoff here. This is so well filmed. the acting is so high quality in this whole area. Like, it's really good. Her reaction is so legit.
Yeah.
It is fucking awesome.
See, that's the thing about Elise Gayton, I think is how you pronounce her last name. We always called her Elise, so forgive me. But the thing about her is that, like, especially in the end, like, she goes unnoticed. But I do think she's real good in this whole last sequence where she has to be the final girl, where she has to be scared and strong and all that stuff. I think that comes off.
I do love how you threw in the nom. I was in the nom. That was very, very classic, Bo.
That's the whole idea, is that he is just a guy who came home from Vietnam, but the war never left him, and he tries to run the school like it's the army deal and whatnot.
And it's funny because, and I don't mean this as anything towards your age, but I guess I kind of do in a sense. It is an age reference, because I don't know if me writing that, being 2 years younger than you, Bo, would really refer to the nom. Like, honestly, I feel like there's something about that reference and how fucked up people were coming back from Vietnam.
Oh yeah.
That is a real generational thing that's tied in here, and I like that in this. And it makes sense for the year 1984. Like, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I had an uncle that served in Vietnam. Like, I'm too young to, remember the war directly, but I certainly had relatives who did, and that.
Well, you remember the aftermath, which is really what was the most impactful thing, right?
Right. What I don't know Vietnam, but I know people who came from Vietnam. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. I think that's just a really interesting reference.
I love this gag.
Oh yeah.
I like him punching her in the face through the window. I am so glad we got to keep that. That stunt was expensive.
Now, where did he find the guy to play Junior?
He's a stuntman.
He's a stuntman.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, no, you get a guy who can do all that shit, and you're like, you wear this wig, put in these teeth, you're the villain.
And you grunt a lot.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything. You grunt and roar, and he's good. Like, he's threatening and all that. So
I was saying, because all you gotta do is just look intimidating, and like, it's tough to look intimidating unless you are like a big guy.
Yeah,
like, look at Scott. He's intimidating. Scott's very intimidating. Same to Bo. Bo, did you think about casting yourself in this movie as the killer?
No. No.
Is it because you don't have a passport, Bo?
Is that why? It's because I can't act. That's not what I do. I have a very particular set of skills.
That's never stopped Rob Zombie from casting his friends in his films.
That's true, but like, I don't have a music career to fall back on. My podcasting money is not as substantial as you might think.
It should be, I think.
I mean, I don't disagree with you.
Now, there's a filming. Now, I don't think this is a copy I have. I think this is the actual filming. Once in a while, you see a little bit of like
a little theater in the film. Yeah.
I love it. It gives you that kind of like Grindhouse without like kind of looking better than Grindhouse.
Well, and you, like I said in the upfront, you don't want to overdo that also, so that it just constantly looks like shit. But there are little moments here and there that's like, oh, like if a scene is kind of quiet, it's fun to throw that in just to be like, oh right, this is, gives it some visual flair and whatnot.
Yeah, because it kind of gives it almost like a VHS quality look as well, which is nice.
Right, capturing the quality of the film of the time and so forth.
And him hiding in the bus with that music, Bo, what an awesome jump scare. Like, you think she's okay, she's walking back, and then all of a sudden, bam.
Oh, sure. I mean, you gotta have that, come from nowhere moment.
Oh no. And Dad shows up. I forgot about this part. Oh, yes. I like her feistiness.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's got to save herself, right?
Yeah.
And she really was the chick that you didn't really pay attention to.
Right.
And I think that was really clever, as you talked about earlier, of choosing her to be the final girl. Oh, man.
I like her screaming, shoot him, too. I think she does a good job there.
Right? Like, she's just like, she's not messing around.
Right.
And I like how everyone's actually taking her seriously when she's like screaming.
Now, this is very not Canadian because let me assure you, we are not allowed to run around with handguns in our car.
That's why it's Michigan.
Now, in Northern Ontario, they do walk around with rifles, so because of protection from animals. So
yeah, because I was gonna say this is total Michigan because you either have a gun in your car or at least a hunting rifle in your truck somewhere.
All right.
And so a little bit of trivia: the old sheriff you will see here is Rick Rosenthal. He is the let me make sure I have this right.
I'll say I recognize that name.
Yeah, he is. I want to credit him correctly. Yes, he is the director of Halloween 2.
Yes.
As well as a number of other movies and lots of television and stuff like that. But yeah, he a fun little nod to slashers of the era is, hey, hey kids, here's the director of Halloween 2.
Yeah, that's awesome, actually.
Now, were these people, I know you can't give us the price, but were they expensive to get?
Robert Patrick was the most expensive, but you also wanted like a name, in as much as that, Robert Patrick is kind of a character actor and you see him pop up in all kinds of
right,
pops up in all kinds of horror movies because he's not the most expensive, but he's somebody,
and he's also a good actor,
and he's good, right? He's a good actor and a good guy from all accounts. So but like Rick Rosenthal is somebody that Ian knew and was like, hey, do you want to come be in the movie? And did, and all the kid actors get probably scale for Canadian actors, and so no, like nobody was getting, like Lipper, who plays Jamie's dad, or I'm sorry, Adrian's dad. I think like Ian knows him. I think he's got some money in the movie as well, and that kind of thing. So, like again, when you're doing it low budget, it's you're calling in a lot of favors and people, and stuff.
Oh,
like
absolutely. That. And I was saying, like, but yeah, it's like not like ham-fisted where it's like, oh look, we got this famous actor for one small scene and anything like that. Like you actually got people for like specific roles.
Yeah, I mean, probably to a fault. It's just shit we find interesting. Like again, Rick Rosenthal being in the movie is really cool for us. I don't know how many people are like, oh, they got the guy from Halloween 2. I don't know how many people that impresses, but it impressed the shit out of us. So
yeah, and it also has like that's like a true nod for like real hardcore horror fans, because not many people know who the directors look like unless you're like really well known, like Wes Craven and John Carpenter and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and for better or worse, I think if you are a horror fan, I think there's a lot of because I'm a giant horror fan, so when I write this, there are nods to all kinds of horror movies and that kind of thing. So it's again, it reflects so much of me. It's enjoyable sometimes, especially because it's been a long time since I've seen it, to be like, oh yeah, here's a lot of shit that I like.
Right.
Like I like this whole ending. I think this is a lot of fun. It's very Halloween. It's very, here's an abandoned car by the side of the road and freeze frame and zoom. So
yeah, I love that.
And the filming of it, like just how it seems brighter, right? Like it also kind of reminds me of the Friday 13th ending too, to be honest with you. Like it's never really over. Now let's see. We got, oh, look at this!
Yeah.
Oh,
Ransdell. Hold on, I appear again.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there we go. Executive producer.
Awesome.
So, and you'll notice and kind of we had to do that for a couple of reasons. But like you'll notice, like I've got top billing on the writing and Ian's got top billing on the executive producer. So,
yeah, this was just a freaking blast. Like, it's because I never got a chance to tell you, but when I first watched this, I was watching it at work on my phone, and I will say I had a hard time seeing a lot because my phone gets a glare from the lights in my office. So if it's any dark scene, no matter what horror film, I'm not seeing what's on screen. So being able to finally watch it on the big screen and doing it with you and Heather, like this was freaking awesome.
Well, and it's just one of the main perks you can get from being part of the Legion Patreon network, right, Scott?
Oh, good job, Heather.
Brand
Yes.
manager Heather Powell.
I know. Sometimes stuff that you have to do for an actual living pays off. So Scott and I are going to rank the movie. Even with Bo here, rate it. Yeah, rate it. Sorry, rank.
Look me in the eye when you do it.
Oh, I will, Bo. Don't you worry. And if Bo, if you want to rate your own movie, you are welcome to as well.
All right.
Do you want to go first, Scott? We'll do out of 10.
All right. Yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, I find this movie a hell of a lot of fun with a lot of great throwbacks to it, to other older slasher films. The gore is great. It's like we were talking, it's like that perfect blend of not too much and just enough to like satiate any horror fan. The character development between like some of the certain characters in this were also wonderful. But yeah, I would probably give this around an 8.5, 9 out of 10. Like this is a really enjoyable horror film.
Wow. All right. So I guess you can stay on the network. I'll go next. So I really enjoy this film as well. I think what I really appreciate is with this low budget film, Scott and I preach constantly on Friday Nightmares. Low budget is fine if you use your money where it counts. And I'm not sure if it was an Ian call. I'm going to guess it mostly was when it came to where money was used, or maybe it was your call as well, Bo. But it was used well. The kills were effective. They delivered well on screen. I do find some of the bus scenes a little dragged out for my personal taste, but I don't think it affects the overall enjoyment of the film. I enjoy the school dance piece at the beginning. I enjoy the relationship piece that's killed, and the last, or the relation piece that's put in here, and the last 25 minutes of the movie are just a fucking wild ride. So I would give this a solid 8 out of 10 with a strong recommendation. And I love that there's some great Canadian young talent in this film that was able to showcase their acting chops. And now, Bo, do you want to rate your own movie?
Sure, you've made it easy for me. Thank you, by the way. Those very kind things to say, and also just for the opportunity to talk about the movie, because I don't watch it very much. I don't talk about it all that much, so it's fun to do both of those things. I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. As the not the creator, as one of the creators, because making a movie is if nothing if not collaborative. And you're right, when it comes to like what you saw on screen, Ian has plenty to do with all of that. Not just plenty, most of what you're seeing on screen. Yes, I wrote it. Yes, we talked about stuff. We, like I was involved in the creative process, which was really gratifying as the writer. Like I was never, a lot of writers get shut out of that, and I never was. And that's incredibly like gracious and wonderful. And it's the reason that Ian and I are still friends today. And so somewhere down the line, we hope to make another movie. So that all being said, also as a creator, you see all the flaws more glaringly, and there's stuff that just as a writer, I'm like, oh, I would change that now, and I would change that now. And, but for all the things I would change, there are so many things that are kind of like a perfect personal snapshot of, things that I like and my own sensibilities and things like that. So that it's kind of wonderful to watch it again after a few years and really enjoy, like, oh yeah, this is the person I was when I wrote this, and I'm mostly that person, but not entirely, and that's kind of fun to experience.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Bo, for sharing your insight on this film, for sitting with us while we go through it. I really hope that a sequel is one day the reality that what you talked about happens. If not, I just really hope you write again, and something gets made, because I really feel as though you have a huge creative talent, which is displayed in your podcast. You really do set the bar for what is expected in podcasting on our network. And I would say to my other, podcasters, if you've listened to this, which you should, because Bo's our boss, so I don't know why you wouldn't. But if you are, listen to each other's podcasts, Bo always encourages us to do that. But I think you can learn a lot from each other. I know I've learned a lot from Bo. So before we call this a night, I just want to encourage everyone. If you're listening to this early, you're part of the Patreon. You're a Patreon member of the Legion Podcast Network. So we thank you for your support. If you're listening to this later on, this was released first on the Legion Patreon. And if you're not a member, I don't know why you're not. First off, if you're a Canadian like myself, you can actually choose to pay in Canadian dollars, which always makes life a little bit easier. And for $3 a month, you get access to videos. You get to hear Bo and I talk about the Ouija experiment movie, which is Oscar worthy. I don't know why you wouldn't want to
You get to see science happen in front of your eyes.
It's amazing, actually. And there may even be round 2 to that coming up. We don't want you guys to get too excited.
And a possible appearance with Smoke Show at some point too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's kind of just there. Really, you come for the Heather, you stay for the Smoke Show. And there's other great stuff. I know our other Legion podcasters, brothers and sisters, will be adding stuff to our network as well. We have a variety of awesome shows, so please check us out and subscribe. We have everything from Scary Stories, which is, what's the name of the new podcast, guys?
The Dread Familiar.
The Dread Familiar. As well as we have Kill the Cast, which is another show that we are underneath, which is Jerry, Jay, and Kenneth. Scott, do you want to shout out any shows?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Cinema Psyops, who it's kind of like the one of the banner shows for this network. I've been a fan. That's pretty much how I found out about Legion in the first place, is by listening to them, because they did a guest spot on another podcast, and that's how I knew about them. So just kind of like a circle of getting to know people. But yeah, Cinema Psyops, you just got to listen to those two. I mean, if you're a huge fan, then you are a garbage person, because that is their fan base, and Bo will tell you that.
There's also Desmond's Flicks, as well as Movie Misfits. There's a lot of really fun podcasts that you can check out. So, if you're a Patreon, thank you for listening. If you're not a Patreon, please consider joining us on Patreon. There's a lot of benefits that will be coming. And Bo, did you want to add anything to what we're talking about in regards to Legion?
Yeah, first of all, thank you guys so much, not just for having me for this conversation, but you guys, you both know I'm a big fan of both of you guys. I think the show is great. I'm very excited every time one comes out. I enjoy all the penis talk.
Scott really likes to talk about his penis, so
I so do. It's so big. Wait, what?
It's uncomfortable for everyone.
I talk a lot about drinking because I do that a lot, but we also talk about the occasional horror movie.
Yeah, it's it's a lot of fun, and I'm just I'm so thankful and happy you guys are with us.
We're just thankful to be on your network and getting to know you.
It's like one big kumbaya.
It's nice to work with nice people. I like that a lot.
Yes,
I really appreciate that you say that about me, Bo. That means a lot.
She's really a bully. You don't know her that well, Bo.
So for Scott and I's podcast that Bo led to, or was discussing, you can listen to us on the Legion Podcast Network. We're underneath the Kill the Cast feed. We are the Friday Nightmares podcast, and as much as we joke that we talk about penis and drinking, we do talk about horror movies. We talk about 2021 movies that we've been watching, as well as older films that we've been watching. We shout out different podcasts that we've been listening to, as well as we do comparisons. So our episode that was just dropped this last Friday, is on remakes. So we talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, for example, as well as the hated Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and the Friday the 13th, and several others, and we compare them to the original, and we give our thoughts on that, and also we share some articles and research on why remakes are made, and the purpose behind them. So, if you haven't checked us out yet, please listen. And do you have anything else you want to add, Scotty, or do you want to see us out?
No, I'll say it. Also, just go to the Legion Podcast website and just subscribe and rate and review any show that you are a fan of, and just show your support. But that would be it. So until next time, unpleasant dreams.
Bye, y'all.